I said I'm geek and I'm fired up.
What's up, guys? I'm Andrew.
And I'm Travis. Well, big news in the NBA. Gordan Hayward has officially announced that he's going to be signing with the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, it was a big-time contract. 4 years, $127 million throughout the entirety of the deal. The fourth year is a player option for $34 million for that season. And this is a big move for the Celtics as they get the star player that they've been looking for to kind of complement Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what Boston needed to do. You know, before the draft, they're talking about making a trade for Paul George, trying to get Jimmy Butler. Instead, they end up not having to sacrifice any of those precious first-round picks they have. And now they just got a small forward, a guy who's an all-star. I mean, he's a great player. What do you like about Gordan Hayward?
Well, this is a really good fit for both sides of this because Gordan Hayward, he played with Brad Stevens at Butler when he was in college, so he's got familiarity with him there. Obviously, Brad Stevens knows how to use Gordan Hayward to his strengths. Gordan Hayward, like we said, he's an all-star player. Maybe not like a top 15 player like a Jimmy Butler or Paul George, but he's definitely like a top 30, top 25 type of player.
Yeah.
And he can complement Isaiah Thomas as that second scoring option because as we saw in the playoffs last year, even though Isaiah Thomas had a really good playoffs, every single time they would get in those close games where Isaiah Thomas was struggling a little bit, they would struggle to score because they didn't have anyone else that could really create their own shot. And Gordan Hayward can certainly create his own shot in that offense.
Yeah, and, I mean, Gordan Hayward is a type of player who doesn't necessarily need to have the ball in his hands to be very effective. You saw in Utah, they ran a lot of plays for him, had him come off screens. He's a really good three-point shooter. He's really good at just, cutting, moving without the ball.
Yeah.
And that's going to take a lot of pressure off Isaiah Thomas. Like we said, we saw in the playoffs, the Celtics went when Isaiah Thomas went. And if Isaiah Thomas was off, it just threw the Celtics off completely. So it's going to be a lot of pressure off Isaiah Thomas's shoulders because Gordan Hayward, I mean, he's a great facilitator. He's a guy where you put the ball in his hands and he's going to make his teammates around him better. So I think this is a great move for Boston.
Yeah. Even though it is a great move for Boston and they finally get that star player they've been needing over the last few years to kind of compete with the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference, there are a few pitfalls with this signing. They didn't have enough cap space when the initial signing to keep Gordan Hayward under the cap, so they had to make a few moves to get enough cap space to keep Gordan Hayward on their roster. And they ended up trading Avery Bradley. He's not one of those precious first-round picks, but Avery Bradley is a key piece to that deal. Now, in that trade, they sent to the Detroit Pistons for Marcus Morris, who's a solid player, but he's not Avery Bradley, and Avery Bradley is very important to the Boston Celtics because of his defense and his three-point shooting.
Yeah, no, me and you were talking about when we saw Avery Bradley got traded, we were thinking that in the end, Boston was actually going to probably do that Gordan Hayward is going to sign with the Jazz, and then we're going to do a sign and trade for Jay Crowder. He would go to Utah, Gordan Hayward would go to Boston. That means they'd have less small forwards on the team because, I mean, right now, you got Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Gordan Hayward,
Jay Crowder.
Four
small forwards.
Those are four small forwards.
And
that
Marcus Morris kind of plays small forward too.
Yeah, he can play the three or the four.
So they have a lot of players stuck in that 3 and 4 slots on that team right now.
So would you say it's safe to say if you're the Boston Celtics GM, you would rather have Avery Bradley over Jay Crowder?
Yeah, if I was Danny Ainge, I would have rather done the signing trade with Jay Crowder going to Utah because, you can replace Jay Crowder because he's, like we said, he plays the 3 and the 4 position for them as a small forward. Like, Jaylen Brown can take over Jay Crowder's place. I know he's on a really good contract, which is probably why they made that decision to trade Avery Bradley because Avery Bradley's going to his last year of his contract.
Yeah, he's going to get paid.
Yeah, so they're probably thinking, with Isaiah Thomas coming up in free agency, they're going to pay him instead of Avery Bradley. But, I mean, Avery Bradley is like a key component to their defense because
very much.
Because Isaiah Thomas is like probably the worst. I mean, according to some metrics, he's the worst defender in basketball. So Avery Bradley could take control of guarding those point guards that Isaiah Thomas couldn't guard and can shut them down pretty well. Jay Crowder is kind of repetitive when you have Jaylen Brown on the roster to me, because that's kind of what they drafted Jaylen Brown for, in my opinion, was to replace Jay Crowder eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, Jay Crowder, he's more of a player where he's pretty much a 3-and-D wing. I think one of the reasons why they kept Jay Crowder over Avery Bradley was because basically they know they got to beat LeBron. The Cavs are the top in the East, and they know they got to dethrone them.
Yep.
And Jay Crowder, he's built, he's 6'8", he can bang with LeBron in the post. He's kind of the guy that I think they view, he can guard LeBron James. But like you said, you got Jaylen Brown, who I think, he's a lot more athletic than him. He's, basically Jay Crowder's replacement. So I felt like he could have easily done the job.
Yeah.
Or like Avery Bradley, he's a lot more versatile because he's an elite defender.
He can go 1 through 3.
Yeah, he can guard the 1 through 3, and he's actually really good with the ball in his hands, like facilitating the offense.
Yeah, Jay Crowder really doesn't give you much offensively other than wide open 3-point shots.
Yeah.
Another thing, Marcus Smart also guarded LeBron James at times during the playoffs last year. He did not a great job on LeBron because you're not going to stop LeBron.
Yeah, you can't.
But Marcus Smart did a pretty decent job, considering he's only 6'4". I mean, he's big and strong and sturdy for a 6'4" guard, but he can guard LeBron in spurts.
Yeah.
So they still have pieces to guard LeBron. You're not going to stop LeBron James. So to keep Jay Crowder because of that makes no sense. To me, makes more sense because of the contract, because Jay Crowder's on a really cheap contract long term, and they can he kind of offers that 3-and-D that they've been wanting out of that player.
Yeah. Well, also, I'll transition to my next question is, do you think with the Gordan Hayward signing, does this move them past the Cavs in the East?
No.
No?
I'm just going to keep it, no.
Doesn't
quite, no, because, again, they still don't have anyone as good as LeBron, really. We don't know how Isaiah Thomas will play in the second year, because remember, as far as we know, he's a one-year wonder. As far as we know, as being an elite, top scoring talent. Now, obviously, Isaiah Thomas is great, but he's only had one great year. He's got to do it again for me to really feel like. And again, even in the playoffs against the Cavaliers, before he got injured, he was struggling.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he can compete against the Cavaliers. He hasn't shown it to me yet.
Yeah, I don't think it's that simple, or I don't think it puts them past it.
No.
But I think, this is a series now with Gordan Hayward. They can push it to 7 games.
No, they can push it to 6 or 7 games this time, I think.
Yeah.
It's definitely more competitive, but it doesn't put them over the top. They need one of their younger players like a Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart to really develop into close to a star player to really get there. And they need Horford to continue to be that kind of player they wanted out of him when they signed him as a foundational piece for them as a center.
Yeah, but I still think that I could honestly see the Celtics beating the Cavs next year. They're just way more deeper in their depth than them. I mean, they've got guys who are on the bench unit that should be starting.
They lost some of their depth though to get Gordan Hayward. I mean, obviously, I would take Gordan Hayward any day over Kenny Leon Olynyk and Avery Bradley and some of the other guys they lost.
Johnson.
Yeah, Jonas Jerebko. Obviously, you take Gordon Hayward over any of those guys, but that was the strength of their team last year was their defense and their depth.
And they picked up Marcus Morris, who's a very good floor player.
Yeah, but still, they did lose a little bit of their depth. It doesn't really solve their biggest issue is their rebounding. They're a terrible rebounding team. Now, Cavaliers aren't a great rebounding team either, but they're better than the Boston Celtics. And Tristan Thompson did have a pretty big impact in that series in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching. And,
big moves in the Eastern Conference. We'll see how this turns out. Obviously, it's a great move for the Celtics. I think we both believe it's a great move for the Celtics. But let us know what you guys think in the comments section below. Thanks, guys, for watching.